I've been wanting to make this video for a couple of weeks now. Back in 2005, I returned to the United States after leaving the country for a few years, and the first thing that my brother did was hand me a present. Now, it was around my birthday, but he didn't say anything to me. He just handed me this gift, and he's like, let's get going. And what I pulled out was a copy of World of Warcraft. That began an addiction that I had never experienced before. I looked for every opportunity to play World of Warcraft. Every waking moment was dedicated to this game. And I haven't felt that drive to play a game since. Until now, when Valheim came into my life. Now, if a lot of you haven't heard about what Valheim is, it's a survival game that's in early access on Steam. It's been out for a little over a month, and it is doing fantastic. Iron Gate Studio, the people who made this game, they just nailed it. I have now put in over 160 hours into this game, and I'm still wanting to do more. So what I'd really like to talk about are the 5 reasons why I'm playing Valheim right now and not World of Warcraft. Reason number 1, adventuring isn't linear. And yes, I've harked so much on this channel about how adventuring needs to be linear, and that's in relation to storytelling, and with World of Warcraft, it works perfect to have that system. In WoW, you go from point A to point B, it tells you a story, and that's great. But in Valheim, it is a true open world experience. You're able to go out and create your adventures and experience different things that you never thought would happen. WoW has the ability to do that to an extent. There might be a moment in a raid where you're down to one guy and the boss is at 1% HP and he's a hunter and he flings an arrow into him and kills him and everyone freaks out. That's great. But those moments are rare. In Valheim, crucial situations like that happen pretty frequently, which creates a lot of great memories, and it's just fantastic. Number 2, the game is fresh. But what I mean by fresh is that the mechanics that Valheim introduces, I've never seen anything like it. The game ignores unnecessary conflict. But what would that be? I mean, if you look at games like Rust or Ark, those games have some things that really just don't need to be there. One of them is eating and drinking. I mean, in those games, if you don't eat or drink, you die. And that's great. It talks about realism and whatnot, but the reason why I play video games is to escape reality. But if I have to go eat and drink in the game, I'm not really escaping reality because there's not a reward for eating and drinking in games like Ark or Rust. And if you say that staying alive is your reward, well, it's not really a reward. It's just kind of like, it's a conflict you have to overcome in order to keep your character going. It's not something that you choose to do and you get rewarded for doing it. You have to do these things, and the reward isn't that great. Whereas Valheim, they take a system like food, for example, and they make it beneficial. To break it down, you have 3 different slots that you can put 3 different types of food in your stomach. And each food is different because it'll regulate how much HP you're gonna have and how much stamina you're gonna have, which is like your energy bank to do stuff. So it makes it really rewarding to go out and find different foods in order to better yourself, and you never know what's gonna happen. You get to be as powerful as you want, depending on how much you go out looking for the right kind of foods to make you that powerful. I hope that made sense. I'm not sure if that did or not. Another reason why the game is fresh is because it goes back to basics. If you look at World of Warcraft back in 2004, 2005, they had basic stuff. Mining copper, that was just a basic thing. It was exciting because I knew I was going to use it for making something later on down the road. Or even that piece of green armor, you're just like, oh man, this gives me stats. It was something, it was so simple yet so rewarding. Valheim does that. The stuff that you gather, you create, and I'm super excited when I make a piece of iron armor rather than getting a level 220 purple epic gear from a Mythic Plus that I'm just probably gonna throw away later on down the road. And the big thing about why the game is so fresh is because you can create where you live. And we kind of almost had that in World of Warcraft and WoD when they said we're gonna give you garrisons. I got really excited. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have a moat. I'm gonna have like this stone, wall around. I'm gonna build like a castle. It's gonna be my place. It's gonna have a lot of me in it. It's gonna be great. I'm so excited. That's not what we got. No, we got different plot lands that you could choose which buildings to put on. So you kind of got the ability to customize it, but it didn't look the way you really wanted it to look. Valheim takes care of that. And I love that you can create a whole bunch of different stuff. If you go onto their subreddit, you can see all the stuff that people are making. Reason number 3, I don't know what's going to happen next in Valheim. Now, I can tell you what's going to happen next in World of Warcraft because they have a system that they've been repeating for quite some time now. Blizzard creates a new expansion for World of Warcraft. They get a bunch of feedback in the alpha. They don't listen to it and lose a bunch of subscribers. And then they bring in catch-up mechanics, which brings in a bunch of the subscribers back to the game. And then they try to fine-tune and fix the game and whatnot in preparation for the next expansion. This is how Blizzard operates World of Warcraft now. And when we know how they operate that system, it's no longer exciting because it's predictable. Look at BFA. We had this new mechanic of corruption at the end, and everyone was like, oh, this is exciting, you know? So they came back and they started diving into what corruption was. Well, after a while, they figured out, I can't get the corruption that I want, and if I can't get the corruption that I want, which means I can't be the best player that I can be, I'm not going to play World of Warcraft. So what does Blizzard do? They make a catch-up mechanic. They say, hey, we're gonna create a currency and you're gonna be able to gather this currency and then you can buy whatever corruption you want. Which ended up being a completely broken system and was a lot of fun if you took advantage of it. But that was it. People came back because they just had a catch-up mechanic. And when we know that, it kind of takes the fun out of the game. Valheim is new. And I don't know what's gonna happen with the patches that are coming out, which is absolutely amazing because I love not knowing what's going on. I'm not even looking on different websites for Valheim to find out what materials I'm gonna get in the future. I'm just letting the game be itself and tell me what it's all about. And because I don't know what's gonna happen in Valheim, nothing feels like a chore to me. Even going out in the woods and cutting down trees or mining ore, it doesn't feel like a chore because I know that I'm gonna use it to get rewarded with something later on down the road. Whereas World of Warcraft, everything feels like an errand that I have to run. And that's not fun. Reason number 4, the game mechanics are complex yet simple. And that doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, those two words, they clash. They oppose each other. But it works with the food mechanic that they have, because if you look at the system, each piece of food has a different stat that will regulate how much HP you're gonna have and also how much stamina you're gonna have. It's complex because you have to work on getting different foods to find out the best combination, but at the same time, it's really simple. You just cook the food and you eat it. World of Warcraft, on the other hand, has this borrowed power system. And what I mean by borrowed power is that we're gonna use a core mechanic system in this expansion, and then when we go to the next expansion, we're just gonna dump it all and leave it behind. And these core mechanics to the game, they're important, but not. I mean, that's debatable. I mean, look at the mechanics for conduits. If you want to be the best player that you can possibly be, you're gonna have to go work on your conduits within your covenant. A lot of people would say, no, it's not necessary, but it's intended to be that way. Anima, you have to go out and collect it to progress. It's kind of boring. It's just a chore. Gearing up in World of Warcraft, you run mythic dungeons and stuff like that, and right now, I know they're trying to fix it with Valor points and everything, but you know, for the longest time, you run into something and come out with nothing. That's not rewarding. It's a disservice to the players. Torghast, don't get me started. And Stygia, need I say more about that? Again, it's nice to have things to do in a game, but when you're not rewarded or feel a sensation of being rewarded, is it really worth it? And going back to the borrowed power thing, I have a problem with that because we use all these different systems and whatnot in Shadowlands, and they can be a lot of fun. But when we move on to the next expansion, all of that is just left behind. We have nothing to show for our work when we move on to a new expansion. As far as Valheim, I know that there aren't expansions or anything yet, but all of the old content within the game anyways, like mining ore and stuff like that, like copper, all that stuff is still there, and I can see where I was and how far I've progressed. And reason number 5 is something that I touched base on pretty much this entire time, is that Valheim just feels rewarding. And I want to use the analogy of mining ore. It's great. If I go out and mine copper ore in the game, I know that I'm going to bring it back, I'm going to smelt it, which you can do in World of Warcraft just fine. It's the same concept. But I'm gonna use this copper to create different things other than just armor or something like that. I can use it to make decorations in my custom home. I can use it to make different pieces of armor. There are multiple uses for one piece of copper mined ore that feels satisfying. In World of Warcraft, you mine the ore and use it in your profession, and that's about the extent of it. Also, getting ore in Valheim isn't always the same thing. In World of Warcraft, starting in vanilla, mining ore was you go up to a vein and you mine it. That hasn't changed. In Valheim, yes, mining is basically the same, but they introduce different conflicts in order to get that ore. For example, to get iron, you need to go into the swamp and go into the crypts and mine the sludge mess that's down there. But the conflict is that all the creatures down there are trying to protect it, and they'll try and kill you while you're trying to mine. When you introduce conflict with a task, the reward is greater. World of Warcraft doesn't really offer that with their professions. You just mine it and it's yours. While in Valheim, I had to work for every piece of ore that I have, and I treasure those pieces of ore. And speaking about that, with Valheim, all the copper that I've gathered, which is considered old content for me now because it's at the start of the game. I know that future stuff that's coming to the game are going to require copper, so I'm going to have to go back to those old zones and mine the copper, and that's still exciting for me because I have to adventure to build something brand new. Whereas World of Warcraft, once an expansion is done, they leave all that material back in that expansion and you really never touch it ever again. Another reason why Valheim feels so rewarding is because you can think of different ways to do something, and a lot of the times you're right. And some of the stuff doesn't pan out. I mean, I saw a streamer that was trying to smoke out bees, and it was a really good idea. He put a fire in the house where the bees were at and sealed it up and thinking he could smoke them out. The game isn't programmed for that, but it was a really, really good idea. But there are things you can do, like chopping down a tree and having it roll down and kill a bunch of enemies. That's a fantastic idea. And one of my friends was fighting the second boss, and not to ruin anything, but what he did was set a bunch of fire pits around the boss, so when the boss walked through them, he caught on fire. That's a thing you can do. You can create certain mechanics to help you through the game by just logical thinking. All in all, regarding Valheim, and quoting a YouTuber named Rachel Maxey, who my wife and I watch all the time, it just hits different. That can be taken in so many different ways, but I'm loving this drive to play this game. But what does that mean for a channel that has focused all of their content on World of Warcraft quest lore? Well, I'm not done with World of Warcraft. I still love the game, I just don't want to play it right now. I'm still making content for it, that's for sure, and I'm still working on Bastion even though the lore is kind of lacking. But I want to branch out and look at different things within the gaming community. I've even thought about changing the name of the channel and having Tales of Azeroth be a segment of the channel and not the channel as a whole. And a lot of you may not like that idea. You want consistency. I thrive on consistency. I hear you. That's why I try to put out an episode every single week. But there is a drive to want to do something more. Maybe cover stuff for Valheim or any other game that's pretty popular and that I'm really enjoying. But let me know what you think. I'm really considering doing this, and I want to start doing things because I want to be excited about making content. Because like somebody commented on my last video, he looks tired. I wish he'd take another break. Yeah, I'm pretty tired. I'm looking for something fresh. I'm looking for something new. I want to be creative. I want to branch out and do more things and open up the channel to a much wider audience. But anyways, I wanted to make this video because I felt it was something I really wanted to talk about. And I want to thank the Patreon subscribers for supporting this channel. I know that I say that every single week, but I really mean it. Your contributions help with the subscription cost for the editing software and everything, and it means a lot to me. But next week, we'll continue the quest lore in Bastion, but plan to see some other stuff pop up. I have some ideas, but I like to hear what you guys are thinking. But anyways, if this is your first time here, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week when we continue all the quest lore in World of Warcraft.